Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to walk you through the manufacturing trends for Canada. So this particular chart, I've actually pulled this from Stats Canada, and basically you're looking from May to September time frame. So if we look at the overall sales of manufacturing, you're off about 2% or about around basically $11 billion less than they were last year, but we're still trending about 20 billion higher than what we saw in 2013. Now, if you really factor everything into it, and you really look at the trend lines, you're really looking at petroleum coal product. And when you look at that, you're actually seeing the biggest drop in that particular area. So what we've done over the last year or so is we basically have offset a lot of that petroleum coal drop into other manufacturing areas, particularly in areas like transportation and primary metals. And that's what you're seeing with this particular chart, as well as food processing as well. So that's where you're basically seeing some of the big uptick. This particular chart, I focused on main areas here, and basically what this is showing you is that for the average of 2014, we're averaging about, on a monthly basis, about $52 billion worth of manufacturing sales. Now we're running in about 51, so we're about 1 billion less than where we were a year ago. That being said, if you factor out the petroleum coal product area, which is down $2 billion, we've seen uptick in areas like transportation, food, and forestry. Now let's talk about transportation. That's the automotive sector that's driving that, or buses that we manufacture out in Winnipeg. That's leading that number. Forestry's up. Well, that's to do with stronger than normal higher housing starts. That's driving that. So you're seeing in a roundabout way that despite oil changes, the drop in oil and petroleum-based products, we're basically seeing that we've almost offset that with manufacturing and other aspects of the economy. Now, if we look at provinces now, overall, Ontario is almost like it's up $1 billion, which isn't significant because if you look at in terms of its overall value, it's not even up 1%. It's up about a half a point from this time last year. It's still doing better in 2013, but the bulk of Ontario's manufacturing is driven by automotive. Now look at where you're seeing too with BC. BC's had a pretty good year, and a lot of that stuff driving in BC is agricultural as well as aerospace, and some of their advanced manufacturing areas are driving that. And the biggest area you're going to see in drop is Alberta, and that's again to do with the oil prices. This shows you a trend in terms of where we were this year. So you saw earlier on this year that our manufacturing sales were sluggish for the first 4 months of this year. And they started picking up in May and April, and we've had stronger sales through June, July, and August. That's really what I want you to get out of that. And that's really buoyed by looking at manufacturing. Now, this particular chart here is showing you, it's basically showing you where manufacturing is climbing. We seem to have dropped in oil, but we started to rebound a bit with a little bit of drop. So we've had some major drops late in 2014, but the pricing, or it's been pretty well stable for most of 2015. This just shows you the drop between month over month. So Newfoundland and PEI, which are driven mostly by agricultural and aerospace and maybe some oil, petroleum and fishing stocks, is up month over month. The other provinces, majority of them are down, with the exception of New Brunswick. Again, New Brunswick is a resource-based, mostly driven by forestry and food processing. So those areas would tie directly into the lumber stats as well as food processing. This just gives you a little bit about what Royal Bank has said on it. They're just saying that manufactured sales were weaker in September. This is from the Bank of Nova Scotia, but basically this gives you a little bit of a different spin. They're basically saying that 13 of the 21 industries were down, so we had 8 industries that were actually doing positive signs. This just shows you about new orders. New orders are a good indication of what's happening in terms of the cycle going out 3 to 4 months, because new orders can take a part of the production cycle a little bit of time to fulfill. PMI index, is this another indicator? Anything above 50 shows you you're growing. We've seen that manufacturing has dropped a bit over the last few months. And this just kind of gives you a little bit about what's happening in manufacturing. Now, going forward, there's going to be key issues that's going to drive manufacturing in Canada. Economic growth in the U.S., it's not going to grow much more than 2.5%. We're bringing in a new taxation policy in 2017 and 2018, which is going to drive up payroll costs. That's going to impact business. There's a carbon pricing scheme coming in that's introduced in Ontario Cap and Trade, which is going to force cost up. Labor costs too. Companies are going to try to hold the line with labor costs because they're going to be trying to absorb, not necessarily absorb ORPP, but they're going to be influenced by it. And Ontario has some of the highest hydro rates. That's going to affect business. So it's very critical to understand that even when you see trends, other outlining factors may drive more pressure on those sectors, especially provincial policies. Thank you.